Good morning, everyone. Seems like we're starting with a small group. Hopefully, everybody else will come and join us as we go through. But I thought we'll start it with the lecture, and hopefully, before we get to the lab, the rest of the people please join us. It'll be hard to go through the lab without everybody. So, all right. Good morning, everybody. Awake, alert, and enthusiastic? Of course, right? About my third cup of espresso, as you can tell. I am hyper. All right, so we looked at that yesterday, so I'm not going to kill you guys again with the same thing. First thing we're going to talk about is the subscription and accounts. When we're talking governance, we're going to talk about security, different type of security, security for the users, security for the resources. So we're going to talk about different, it's from all the way from subscription down to the resource level. So we're going to talk about management group, how to create a management group, Azure subscriptions. So management group is above the subscription. So management group is what's going to manage the multiple subscription. As we talked about, that every organization is going to have multiple subscriptions. So subscriptions are similar to license, and each subscription is going to define what functionality, the scope of what the features that you have access to. So some subscription can have more functionality than the other, depends on what your organization purchased. Also, subscription is not just the features of, what features that have access to in each subscription. You can also set up a SLA agreement, which is SLA service level agreement. So some subscription can have SLA agreement of 99.9999. We talked a little bit about those percentages yesterday. So if you have 969, 69 of them means that you only go to Microsoft guarantee that your subscription will only go down no more than 3 minutes in the entire year. So different SLAs are also can tie to a subscription. By default, if you just purchase subscription without any exception, which means your SLA agreement is 99.95%, and 99.95% means that it can go down 3 hours. All right, so getting a subscription, so we're going to talk about those, the subscription usage, how the subscription user types are, and we're talking about a subscription for most users. Subscription should be our highest level, unless you are the admin or your management of Azure, you will be a part of the management group. Most of us will not be a part of the management group. Okay, we'll talk about different subscription user types and how you check your resource limits, how to tag your resources, and this is billing. Again, we're not going to billing and stuff. We're going to talk more about from the security standpoint instead of the management standpoint. So the management group. So here, this is a Contoso is an organization for this demo. We're going to use Contoso company, Contoso root. So at the top you see that we are creating a group called Contoso. That is the organization level. And the organization is going to have, it has two different sub-companies underneath the Contoso root, which we have a marketing team and IT team. So they can be two separate sub-company, or they can be a department within your organization. So here in this case, they are the department. So we have a marketing team and IT team. And under the IT, so you can see the layers here. So anything we've been talking that, with Azure, I was telling you guys again that I want you guys to see a hierarchy, and you need to see a hierarchy in the levels when we're looking at Azure portal. So under the IT management group, we have two different groups. We have infrastructure team and application team. And under the infrastructure team, we have EA subscription, and pay-as-you-go subscription. So we have 3 different subscriptions. So this particular organization has 9 different subscriptions. And subscription doesn't mean you're at the highest level either. That subscription can also be under a management group, if it's under management group. So that subscription is lower level. So we have 4 layers right here when we hear subscription. If we continue that under the subscription, the next layer would be resource group. In the resource group, and the next layer under the resource group will be the resources. So we see you guys got the idea, right, from the from top down. So organizations are normally going to decide how they wanted to divide the subscription. Some of the subscriptions are divided by region. If you have a regional office, they might give purchase a separate subscription for that region. And especially if in a different country, a different geolocation, they will create a different subscription for that, because every country has different governance rules that we have to, compliance rules that we have to apply. So you might have to purchase a separate subscription for out of U.S. And targeting policies is spread budget across subscription, inheritance down the hierarchy. And the most important thing we spent a lot of time yesterday explaining to you guys about relational versus object. So because this is a object compliance model, if you can see, if you give somebody a permission at this level, the root level, they're going to have permission to every subscription underneath there. So permission is always you give them permission at the top, they will get, these permissions will be by inheritance. So either you give permission to someone at the EA subscription level or development test level, doesn't matter. If you give permission at the root level, they have permission to everything by inheritance. Okay, so everything here is by inheritance. So we'll look into that more. We will create the management group. We will go in and create the management group in a couple of minutes. When we do the lab, we'll get to do that. So management group, again, management group is at every organization, unless you only have one subscription. If you have more than one subscription, you will need a management group. So management group is managing the subscriptions. So again, for us, it's not that important because we may not be, managing the subscription. But it'll get to know that how this whole thing works, and in order for you to either troubleshoot or creating a design or architecture point, or as well as administrators or developers. Okay. However, I don't think most of us may not be creating the management groups. So. So think of a subscription. Subscription is a logical unit of Azure services that is linked to an Azure account. So under each Azure account, you have Azure subscription. So Azure subscription, and we also consider under the Azure subscription, again, we talk about that. Under Azure subscription, we have Azure resource groups. Within the Azure resource groups, we have resources. So we have these several different Azure subscriptions here, if you're looking at the image here, but we have the users, groups, and service and principal. Every individual thing in Azure portal is an object. So user is an object, as well as group and service and principal. They are all individual standalone objects. Those objects are stored in Azure Active Directory in this particular demo they're showing. So in order for these users, groups, and services principals to have permission to do anything in the individual subscription, and within the subscription, the resource group and stuff, this is where you're authenticating and authorizing in Azure Active Directory. So it goes both ways. So subscription helps you organize access to the cloud. Subscription have account simply identity in Azure Active Directory. And we talked about this, but I wanted to go back and talk about it a little bit more. So there is two types of Active Directory. We have Windows Active Directory. At your organization, I'm not sure, but most companies will use Azure Active Directory. And if I recall, someone told you guys, does Windows Active Directory on premises right now. So if you have Active Directory on premises. So what is Active Directory? Again, Active Directory is a networking term that most network administrators be responsible for the Active Directory. And if you're not a network admin, you're not going to know much about Active Directory. But in general, what is Active Directory? Active Directory in the Active Directory server, which is those are Active Directory domain servers. In the domain, what we have is pretty much, it's a table. It has a list of all your usernames, and it has It has a password information, but they're also encrypted. And also for each user, we have a profile. That information is stored in Active Directory. So if we go into the office, when you guys are to go to the office and you log into your network. When you log into your network, and hypothetically, I'm assuming you guys have to put a username and password. When you put the username and password on your network, at your organization, that username and password is going to go against the Active Directory domain. It's going to go look at the Active Directory domain controller and go to say, okay, does May exist? Okay, the username May exist. And did she give the right password? Yes, she does. Okay, now we have authenticate that, yes, you are who said you are, may you have the right username and password. Then the next thing they're going to look at it, okay, they go to my profile and say, what permission does May have on what servers? What servers do I have permission? Of what users, at what client level permission, what application permission do I have? All that information in the profile is stored in Azure Active Directory. Windows Active Directory on-prem. So the same thing for all the resources, all the VMs, anything that you created within Azure on cloud. We also have to have Azure Active Directory. Azure Active Directory does the same thing that Windows Active Directory does on premises. So now we have two different Active Directory. We have Windows Active Directory on premises, and we have Azure Active Directory on cloud. And what is Azure Active Directory? Azure Active Directory is the same thing. You are authenticating the users, and you're going to look at the user profile and define what permissions they have on cloud. So some organizations have, if you have both and you have users that are going to be using both on-prem and cloud, then you can synchronize that to Active Directory. However, some organizations say, well, no, we have some users that are only going to access to Azure Active Directory. They are only going to stay on cloud. We're not giving permission to log into on-premises server. Then that user will only exist in Azure Active Directory only. So bottom line, Azure Active Directory is a service what it's going to authenticate and tell you what authorization you have. That's all it does. Okay. So when we're creating users and groups in Azure, and let's assume that you have a separate group of people going to connect in cloud, which they are not a part of your on-prem Active Directory, then you can create your username and passwords in Azure Active Directory. And if there's two different group of people, then you don't need to synchronize them. So all the information about what users have permission, who is authenticated, who is authorized to do it, all that are stored in Azure Active Directory. So in Azure Active Directory, within Azure Active Directory, if you're using multiple subscription, per subscription you will have a separate profile. Depends on what subscription you're in. So maybe, I have two different subscriptions, and one subscription I have SLA access is 99.99, and the other permission only have 90.95. So if you have two different subscription, you should have two different profiles for each subscription for the user. Getting a subscription is very easy. You can have it enterprise agreement. Some customers do a upfront monetary commitment. Say, hey, I know my organization is going to spend. Depends on current technical. Current IT usage is going to say, well, I know I'm going to spend $100,000 a year, and they say we will spend $100,000 a year. If they give that commitment to Microsoft, there's a discount for doing that. So some organization would do that. They'll say, okay, we guarantee that we're going to spend this much, per year. Then we have resellers, and resellers provide a simple, flexible way to purchase cloud services. So there we have Microsoft has a lot of partners that resell their products. Right? And then, of course, resellers they just resell the product. And then partners that are designed to implement your Azure cloud solutions. So they can also provide a subscription. They can also sell you a subscription. And we have personal free account. So these are different type of different ways that you can get a subscription. So most of you guys, I know I provide you the link to get the free subscription. for 30 days. I don't know anybody take advantage of that, but it's going to include a 200 credit for the first 30 days and free limited access for 12 months. So that's pretty cool. Which changes you monthly, pay as you go. That's what I have. Also, you have enterprise. One agreement with discount for new license and software assurance targeted at enterprise scale organization. Of course, enterprise is will be the most expensive. And if you're a student and any college, it can include $100 for 12 months and must verify student access. You must belong to a college or university or high school. This is an important thing on subscription user types. This is important. We have account administrator. So account administrator is the one that has can create management group, right? The up top of the subscription. That's the Azure account administrator. Account administrator can have permission to all the subscriptions. Then we have a service administrator. So service administrator has one per Azure subscription. So if you have 5 Azure subscription, you can have 5 different service administrator. Or most of the times, with the same person will be managing all subscriptions anyway. So, but a service administrator is 1 per Azure subscription. One. And then we go from 1 to, we went haywire here, and for the co-administrator, we have 200 per subscription. However, don't go crazy and do not put 200 co-administrators, because co-administrators have a lot of power. So you want to be careful that who you give co-administrator. It depends on how big organization is, of course, but I would not, so far I have not given co-administrator more than 5 for any organization. But you can give up to 200 co-administrator per subscription. All right. So you can check your resource limits. This is important to see, okay, what limit that am I hitting as far as usage. So this is looking at the usage quota. Usage quota based on location, and you can also get usage quota based on resources. So this is good to look at it just so you know, okay, what's my quota and have I filled my quota? So it tells you the quota that you can have. 2 of 100, so you can still got a bunch go. If you have only 1 of 1, then you have filled your quota. Resource tags. Resource tags are important, but resource tags is only important for people, anybody's related to billing, or if you're a management and you need to make sure that your team is not overusing Azure and you don't want to end up with $10,000 bill at the end of the month. So you wanted to create tags. And tags is a logically organizer for your resources. So tags is going to keep track which user create what service. If you create these resource groups, which user is creating and what is it costing you. So it's going to break down to the user level. It's also going to break down to resource level. How many resource groups are getting created and which team is creating that. So all of that. So normally sometime in internal organization, once the bill comes in, they kind of break it down to different departments. Say, okay, if marketing department Azure usage is costing us $3,000, they will bill the marketing, that this internal billing, but they will bill marketing team to $3,000. In order to know marketing team is the one costing $3,000, you have to create tags. So here, notice that in the tags, we have a cost center. So cost center is finance. Cost center is HR. So based on these cost center, you set up tags. That's how you're going to define what's going to, at the end of the month, when the bill comes in, you know which cost center is costing you. So that's more, for good for management. And also you're the billing manager, or account payable manager, that you'll be interested for billing, but most of us do not. But even if you're, if you have your own Azure account and you look at it, it'll be good to know how the billing is working. Okay. And one thing good here that they do have, and most organizations take advantage, is called Azure reservations. So it can save you money by prepaying for that service. So, well, I know I'm going to use, we have a big development team, and we're going to use 20. I know we're going to use 20,000. It's going to cost us for the development of the web apps or whatever you're using, the VMs. And you can, if you pay up front, it's more discount than paying at the end of the month. So there's prepayment you can do as well. All right, so RBAC, we get RBAC, the acronym for it is RBAC. RBAC is huge because RBAC it just came out. RBAC is a new functionality in Azure. So role-based access control. Okay, so role-based access control, we'll talk about the concept of them. We'll talk about the RBAC roles. We'll talk about different administrator permissions, role assignments, role definitions, and we're not doing a demo. We're going to go in and do it together. So here's the RBAC concept. RBAC concept is what, going forward, that's what you're going to have. Microsoft's going to make sure that we're using RBAC concept, and the traditional way that we've been assigning permission, that's going to go away. So I want you guys to start getting used to RBAC concept. So here's the subscription. So of course, in the top of the subscription, what do we have? We have account manager, and if the account management will have multiple subscription, but in this particular one, we are focusing on one subscription only. So in that subscription, at the subscription level, you can get permission as 3. You can be an owner of that subscription, or you can be the contributor of that subscription, or you can be a reader of that subscription. Okay, now a resource group, we know resource group, we have created many resource groups. Each resource group, you can be an owner. You can give somebody permission to be either owner, contributor, or reader. So at the subscription level, if somebody is an owner of the subscription level, that means that they are owner of resource group as well as resources, because access is inherited from top down. Okay, now if the resource group, if you are a contributor at the resource group, you will be a contributor for all the resources under that resource group, unless you have an exception, unless somebody specifically give you a decline permission. Okay, then we also have resources. Resources are the web. We create storage account. We create VMs, a NIC card, storage account. All of those are considered resources. Anything that we created, that we put it under a resource group, those are all considered resources. And resources are object, as well as resource group is an object, as well as subscription is an object. Okay. All right. So define, and we talked about this, and I said that many times. When you allow permission, we always do it at the highest level, is top down. But when you deny a permission, it is bottom up. Deny permission, always overwrite the allow permission. We're good with that, right? We talked about that many times. So this is what in RBAC we have. So it breaking down to 3 different categories: subscription, resource group, and resources. And each level, category level, each level you can have only 3 different permission. Either it got to be owner, contributor, or reader. So for all 3 of them, each one has 3 different permissions. So total, we're talking 9 permission for 3 different levels. RBAC is important because RBAC is what we are going to go forward when Microsoft going to push us to use RBAC only. Okay, so RBAC is, we will do the lab, so you'll get to do this hands-on, so don't worry. In the resource group called Contoso Blue AD, in this particular screen here, is access control, IAM. So that is our RBAC, rollback access. So when we say add, and we can add a role, we can add a scope. So notice that this is a user, this individual, and Corey, and she is a owner for this subscription, a subscription owner. Then we have a virtual machine contributor. So this is a user virtual machine contributor. So that means that they're at a virtual machine level only a contributor. You only contribute. We'll look at each permission here. So in the administrator permissions, and here when you go down to roles and administrator, this is an Azure Active Directory. You have roles like global administrator and others. Global administrator is the one has permission to every subscription. If you only have one subscription, you're only administering one permission only, then you would be only administrator, a local administrator, not a global administrator. Notice that these are the built-in rules comes with the system at the time we install. When you open Azure, you have application administrator, application developer, billing administrator. As you can see, there are a lot of built-in functions, built-in roles. So normally, we don't want you to create a new role. You can take one of these roles and modify it to your needs. That's most possible. If you can at all, then maybe you need to create a custom permission, custom role. Okay, so once you have that permission, you set up a permission here and say, okay, well, you know who's going to have what permission. Then you go to the users and you assign the role assignment to that user. Again, we will do that in the demo, so that'll make it a lot clearer. So here's you have roles. So what is a role? Role is a set of permission. Within the role, you have a bunch of different permission, and that when you have a user, when you create a user, and you're going to assign that user that role. When they assign that user role assignment, now that user have permission in that role. So in that role, let's say there's 15 different permission. Now that user have 15 permission through the role. So role are a set of permission. Okay. Now in here we break it down to 3. You have users, which users are either associated with Azure Active Directory or Windows Active Directory. They can or both. So they can be either or both for the user. Groups, the same thing. Groups are associated with Azure Active Directory or Windows Active Directory or both. And we have another one called a service principal. So service principals can be not just service principal can be user, but also service principal can be a particular resource, particular service, particular application. So authenticate with Azure AD and securely communicate with one another, service principals. So we'll look at some of these here. Again, these are all built in role, and I want you guys to know what the concept of object rules and all that. So even though you may not be the one assigning permission, if you need a permission, you can guide someone and say, hey, I need these permission. And you need to go look at it and make sure that you know what permission you have, so you can guide them to give you the right permission. Okay, so that's why I want you to be able to look at it. But I don't think not all of us are going to have a permission. So in role definition, it tells you exactly what permission you have. So here, because this is an owner role, notice the description says you can manage everything, including access to the resources. So that's an owner is the only one can grant access permission to another user. All right, so let's look at users and groups. So we're going to show you how to create the user account, adding the user account, bulk user account, group account, adding the group members, adding group owners, all that good stuff. And we will do the lab at the end after we get all through all this. So users are again, not all of us going to have permission to be able to create users. But as a user, you want to be able to go look at it to see what permission was assigned to you. You can go look under users and look on your own to see, okay, I have this permission. In this particular one, this is a guest. This is a member. So normally guests are, here you can say that you log in as a guest. So that means that that person is not an employee. So it can be a contractor, or it can be someone like me that just do a training and you guys grant me a guest access, right? So that type of thing. You can look at what permission you have. This is adding user accounts. Again, everybody's going to be able to do that, but this is, if you want to do in the portal, the way to do it, and this is doing in PowerShell. Pretty straightforward. You're going to create a password object, so this is just to confirm what we were doing here. So anytime that you see a $sign in front of a name, we know this is a variable, right? So $sign password profile is a variable, and this is in PowerShell, and so we say object type name Microsoft Open Azure AD Model 1 password profile. So we're creating a password profile. We are assigning password, called password, and create a new user. And when you create a new user, you're also going to assign the password profile here. So password profile is a variable. Whatever the value comes out of this statement is going to get assigned, and that's the value is going to get replaced here when we run new Azure AD user. We're going to create it in the portal as well. You can also, of course, we're not going to sit and create one user at a time, especially, let's say, if you acquired a new company and there's 300 users, and we're going to move that 300 users to Azure. We're not going to sit and create an account for each and one of them. We're not going to do that. We can create a CSV file, which is Excel file, and we can import that 300 user into it. So most, if they're using Windows Active Directory, in the Windows Active Directory, you can export out as a Excel CSV file, and you can import to any Active Directory in the other side. So that's what you would do here in this case. So we're not going to sit and, especially if you have 5,000 users, we're not going to go in and create each one of them. We're just going to use a CSV file to import and export users into Azure AD. So, okay, so we got the user. Now the next thing is groups. Group counts, this is the default they have is 4 groups. You can create any custom group as well, but we have a security group, distribution group, directly assigned, and dynamically assigned. So security groups, these are the ones that are responsible for security. And so security groups, you're going to assign security groups are people who has permission to assign access to other users or other resources. That is a security group. And then we have distribution group. Distribution group are the users that are going to, sometimes you guys have a new version of software comes out and you need to distribute it across all the users, and whoever responsible to that mostly will be from someone from IT, will be a part of that. You want to put them in the distribution group. And then you have directly assigned. Directly assigned means that the individual user, you have to assign that individual user a permission directly to the user level. Directly assigned are normally more for upper management, either CEOs or CFO. We normally will set directly assigned. They will have different type of permission than most majority of us. And then we have dynamically assigned. Dynamically assigned is, okay, so let's say we had created a user called May, and we give May is a part of the education team. So if you assign a role, education team, whatever permission role, once you assign the permission role, because I am a part of the education team, I will automatically get those permission assigned to me because you assigned the permission at the group level. So if you assign it as a group, you don't have to assign individual people in that group. You just assign to the group. Everybody in that group has the same permission. Okay? And adding a group members. Okay, once we create a group, we are going to add members. So when we get to this point that we're adding members, means that we already have the user list is already there. And we will show you how to add group members through the portal, as well as if you're more a PowerShell person, you like to type these, you're more a coder person, these are the statements that you use to create a members. Members are users. And we can also add a group owner. Every group must have a group owner. You don't have to be the one who created the group. You can assign someone else to the owner if you like. All right. Let's talk about policy. We're going to talk about Azure policy and implementing those policy definitions. We're creating initiative definitions, scope the initiative definitions, and we'll talk about determining the compliance. So Azure policy is a service in Azure to use to create, assign, and manage policies. So Azure policy is a service, which means it's a piece of software. Someone wrote a code for us. Azure policy runs evaluation and scans for non-compliant resources. So if a particular compliant example, we're going to say that every time someone create a resource group, they must attach a tag. That if that's the company policy, because we want to make sure that every time somebody creates a resource group, we need to know which department we need to build to, so we want them to tag it. So if that is a company policy, so and let's say I try to create a resource group without a tag, when they run that Azure policy compliant, it's going to give you an error, tell you, hey, May had created a resource group without a tag. Okay, so it'll have a compliant issue. So advantage is going to enforce the compliance, apply policy at scale, and a remediation. So we will create some Azure policies, all right? So to create policies, we wanted to browse the policy definition. Of course, there are Microsoft comes in with a lot of built-in policy. Try to use the built-in policy and see if you can modify them to the best you can. If not, then you can create a new policy from scratch as well. So you can look at the existing definitions. We can then create a initiative definition. We create a first definition. Then we're going to scope that definition and say, okay, this definition is going to, at what level in the, in the hierarchy? That's the scope. Are we at the subscription scope, or are we at the resource group scope, or are we at a specific resource? And then we can view the policy evaluation results. And again, we will go in and implement Azure policies in the lab today, okay? Policy definitions, and this is going to say we create a definition location, Visual Studio Enterprise. We said the name is GitHub sample, the category is new. Import sample policy definition from GitHub. So this is we're taking from external definition we want to bring in. Policy definitions have a JSON format. It is readable. You can create custom policy definition as well, but this is, we're using an existing policy. We're bringing policy in from GitHub. We're going to import that, and you can modify it once you have the definition as well. So first thing we had to do is create a policy definition. Then we also create an initiative definition. In the policy definition we have, it's going to talk about the group policy and include one or more policy. And one thing is that in the initiative definition, you can add multiple policy into it. So not like one-on-one. It is you can have multiple policy into one initiative definition. And we're going to require planning. Example of multiple definitions, initial definitions are, you can have, okay, if you're creating a user must, change their password every 90 days. That's, one of the policy definition is 90 days. Second is that they cannot use any password that, they ever use. They have to have a different password. That's the second definition, and they both can be in the same policy. All right, scope the initiative definition. You go to assign the definition to a scope. In this case, we are assigning it to a subscription level. And so that means that that particular policy is going to get enforced throughout the entire subscription. Then you go to determine what the compliance is. Audit VMs that do not use something, they wanted to say compliant policy. If it's a VM, it's not, audit VM that is not in service, that is not been used every day. If you have that, we're going to make sure that is non-compliant. So non-compliant initiative, non-compliant policy. We have to see the whole thing to know what that is. But you can check a compliance, and it will show up if you have any non-compliant. So there's non-compliant policy out of 1, non-compliant initiative is 0, non-compliant resources is 0, which is good. All right. Are we ready to rock and roll? Okay, so we are going to, because most of you guys will not have permission in most of you guys are not going to have permission in your environment, which is normal, where you shouldn't have create permissions and all that, because most of us will not be the subscription owner. So we're going to go in and do that in the self-paced lab, which will allow us to have all the permission that we need. Okay, so I am putting the link, and you can see the link here as well. The link is www.microsoft.com/hands-on-lab. I put it in the Skype also for people who have access to Skype. If you don't have access to Skype, you can type it in. For this particular one, I would recommend to use Microsoft Edge as a browser, but at least for me, that's the only one work in Edge. It didn't work in the other two, IE or Chrome, which normally I use Chrome. And before we do that, also, this isn't what I put. Okay, that's my A. Okay. All right, so I already have that. And we are going into make sure you guys get, also open up a document, which I'll open the document as well. Open this document, which is Azure Governance Demo Step. So I also download that for you because it'd be easier to see that, as well as we're going to see in the lab as well, but easier to have it in a bigger format here as well. So back to here. Once you are in the self-paced lab, make sure you search for Azure Governance. Mine should show up really. Okay. All right. I'm putting these in the Skype for you too. So that's a search. So Azure Governance. Can anybody confirm that you're able to see this? You're able to search Azure Governance? Everybody able to find it? But this is a different type of lab than we've done before. This is, as we call it, is a guided lab. What guided lab means that they're going to tell you where to click. So we can't go click whatever we want. We have to click exactly what they tell you, or they don't move. You know, so it's a recorded type of it's a recorded lab. But it's still, you can click on it, but you have to click what they tell you to click only. Does that make sense, guys? If I'm making any sense this morning? I hope so. All right, so let's go, and I'm hoping you guys were able to get to this link. Again, I'm opening it in the Microsoft Edge. It did not open on the other two for me, but didn't mean that it means nothing. It might work on you guys, okay? So, but everybody able to find it? Lucas, Parkish, anybody? Paul, can you guys tell me, or at least you can put it on Skype, let me know you guys can find it. You're in? Because I don't want to start it unless you're in. And this is a time limited. They are strict with the time. Once we click launch, we got to be able to go. We can't. Can anybody confirm you're there for me? I'm going to give you guys a minute doing that. I am going to go fill my coffee. I'll be right back in 1 minute. Okay, no one. I thought someone was typing, but I guess he's not typing anymore. Can I assume that everybody's in? Everybody find the Azure Governance?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we are going to click on launch and click agree. So let's go click on launch. Once you're in, again, this is, you need your Microsoft Live account. Oh, sorry, it's in our car. So I'll get parking meters. All right. Well, we got to make sure that we're not a robot. Uh, well, I don't think being a robot is a bad thing either. I wouldn't mind being a robot. I got too many metal pieces in me. I think I'm a robot already. Okay, that's going to take a couple minutes to start. So let's look at our scenario here. So first thing we're going to do is create a management group. So we're going to access the portal. And again, they're going to walk you through. You can only click what there is. The first thing we're going to click is Azure Management Group.exe, which is on the desktop as soon as we're in. And we are going to create a new Azure Management Group. This is something that you might only have to do once in your lifetime. Once you create a managed group, then we are going to add a managed group called Contoso for this demo. Okay, so that's the first thing we're going to do. And we are creating Contoso here. So you should see management group ID is Contoso. Management group display name is Contoso. That's what we're going to do first. And we're going to save the management group. That's a scenario 1 we're going to do, which is pretty easy. All right, you're using Edge browser, blah, blah, blah. What is it appropriately? All right, so mine is to say hi. We are ready for you. Hopefully you guys are in the same spot. We are going to click the blue start button. So it said you have 1 hour, 18 minutes, 8 minutes remaining. Okay, so let's look at the instruction guide. And if yours doesn't come up like mine, not too next to each other, make sure that you do appropriate adjustment to make sure. So especially the right side, we call it instruction guide. The left side, that is our desktop. That's where we're going to bring the portal in here. All right, on the instruction guide, there's 2 tabs. We have a guide tab and help tab. And help tab, if you notice, help tab is going to tell you what the username and password we need to use. So you must use the username and password provided to you in the lab. You cannot use any other username and password. The username and password provided to you in this lab is under the help tab. And if you scroll down at the bottom, there is your username and password. And notice that next to the username and password, there is a document icon, and that is a copy icon. We're going to use that to click the copy. See, we are going to use a document icon to copy and paste. You are not going to highlight and copy and paste, okay? Highlight will not work. All right, now we are not logging that yet. We are going to the guide. The guide is what's going to tell you step by step. And we already have all the scenarios, the step by step in here as well. That's the Word document I gave you. So what is Azure Governance? Is a set of platform native capabilities that enable cloud architects and cloud engineers to quickly and easily set the right gradual details for the security, compliance, and everyday cost management across all Azure subscription. In our case, we're only going to deal with one, and this is especially important during the DevOps process, as well as apps are being built, deployed, and managed in production. So this lab, we're going to talk about the capability of Azure Management Group, Azure Policy, Azure Blueprint, and Azure Resource Graph. What is Azure Management Group? And we're talking again here is a logical collection of subscriptions. So under Azure Management Group, we will have multiple subscriptions. If you only have one subscription, you do not need to create Azure Management Group. Azure Management Group is in the hierarchy, is above the subscription. So under each Azure Management Group, you can have multiple subscriptions. You can also have multiple Azure Management Groups, okay? So in this lab, we're going to create a new management group, add a role assignment, which is RBAC to management group. We're going to create nested management group, which is sub management group under the management group, under the main management group, so like subfolders. And we're going to move a subscription under a different management group. And we can also move management group between different subscriptions. So move a management group, let's say if an organization restructure and we need to move these management group between subscriptions, we are going to show you how to do that as well. And Azure policy. And like I said, these are not things that you might not do every day or you might never do it, but it's good to know what in the back end is, so that way if you ever need any permission or to do, you can guide, the administrator to, hey, this, or at least you know what you need, so you can request the permission that you need. And like I always said, knowing more is not going to hurt you, knowing less is going to hurt you. So hopefully today's session is going to be more trying to educate you in the authentication and authorization stuff, right? You get yourself educated in those areas, even though there may be something you may not do personally. In this lab, we're going to create a custom policy. We're going to create a custom and built-in policies. We're going to include policies in the blueprint. We're going to review a non-compliance to see if we have any non-compliance resources out there. We're going to remediate the non-compliant resources and review change history of the features. So Azure Blueprint. What is Azure Blueprint? So Azure Blueprint helps you, it's like a house, and every home has a blueprint, right? Every building has a blueprint. So similar to that also, an Azure Blueprint is going to help you deploy and update cloud environments in a repeatable manner using composable artifacts such as Azure Resource Manager templates, and we call those artifacts, to provision resources or role-based access controls and policies. So we're going to learn how to create and assign blueprints enables the definition of common patterns to develop reusable and rapidly deployable configuration based on resource manager templates, policy, security, and more. So Azure Blueprint is another reason that people use it also, that organizations that are doing application development, they want to make sure that all the applications has the same look and feel for consistency also. So you can, once you've created a template for that application, and you go to turn that into Azure Blueprint, and you can use that across your subscription or across even different subscriptions, that to keep your consistency across all your application. Okay. So we're going to create a new blueprint. We're going to add various supported artifacts. We're going to make changes to an existing blueprint still in draft. We're going to mark a blueprint as a published and ready to assign, and we're going to assign a blueprint to an existing subscription. We're going to check the status and progress of the assigned blueprint. So, a lot of cool stuff, and these are things that we get to do it on the lab only, because you're not going to be, most of us are not going to have permission to do it in the production environment. So this is cool that you get to do it in here, right? So at least you get to see it. Azure Resource Graph provide resource exploration with ability to query at scale across all subscriptions and management groups. So Azure Resource Graph is a really a powerful functionality, because it's not just showing within your subscription, it's going to show across all different subscriptions and even across all different management groups. So this is to manage your entire organization, not just one resource group, not one management group, all right? So you will run several Azure CLI queries to explore Azure resources in many different ways. All right, so I know there's a lot of things we can do in the portal, but some of the stuff that you cannot do in the portal, we are going to have to use the Azure CLI command, which is, we've been using that, right? That is our Cloud Shell. So everything that you do in the portal, you can do it in CLI. However, everything you do in CLI, you cannot do it in the portal. So some administrative type of execution that if you need to do, you have to do it in Azure CLI or PowerShell. You cannot do it in the portal. All right. We're going to scroll all the way down. We're going to click Next. At the bottom, in the blue bar, you should be seeing 1 of 10. I want to make sure that we're on the same screen. So we are on page 1 of 10. And we are going to scroll up. We are on page 1 of 10. In the top scenario is the first one. It's a create a management group. Okay, and we're going to access the portal a little differently, guys. So look at the note also. Note that all actions you perform in Azure require some level of permission, which we've been talking about that. Those Azure governance configurations that we are about to make require high levels of permission which for security reasons are not allowed for end users. So to walk through the steps in this lab, we have created a simulation. It's a simulation that you can click through and follow the steps in the guide, which navigate to the interactive experience. This is something you may not be able to do unless you have full permission. Even if you have full permission on your subscription, you might not be unless you are the account administrator and you have permission for all the subscription that you have in your organization, which that would be only one person. So for all of us, most of us, we're not going to have that permission. So this is a good exposure for you to have. So we get to walk through it. Now remember, this is a simulation. So each step they're going to tell you to click where, and we have to click exactly that. And that's something you have to get used to it as well. So the first thing under Part A, accessing Azure portal, step 1, we are going to go to the desktop here, and we're going to click on Azure Management.exe. Yeah, so we're going to click on Azure Management.exe shortcut and maximize the window. So I believe this is the Azure Management Groups. I can't see the whole thing. Okay, so notice that it's going to, we are already logged into Azure portal. When you open it, did everybody see that Azure Management Group.exe? It's the second column from the top, right underneath the recycle bin, next to the Visual Studio 2017. Okay, when you see that, we can maximize it. It doesn't really move that much bigger though. Everybody in, right? Everybody were able to locate Azure Management Group.exe. Okay, if you get, if you get stuck, let me know. We are moving to Part B. Part B is create a new Azure Management Group. Part B, step 1, we're going to click all services in the main menu bar. So look for all services. When you click on all services, notice that they're also going to highlight stuff for us. So notice that management group is already blue highlighted. So in step 2, we are going to select under all services. Management group is the furthest right, the first column on the first record on the furthest right. We're going to select management groups. It is highlighted in blue. It will not allow you to click anything anyway. So that's step 2. So far, so good. Step 3, we are going to click on add management group. No management group are there. So we are going to start using management group, I believe. That's the only thing I can click, I believe. Yep, okay. In the start add management group, so this is a little bit limited what we can put in, the way we can click. So in step 4, create new is selected. We are in step 4. We are going to copy and paste Contoso into management group ID. Click enter. You need to click enter to go to the next field. All right, and in the management group display, we're going to click Contoso, copy and paste Contoso again. Okay. All right, and we are going to click save. Okay, I had the same problem last time. They did? Okay, we're back to copy and paste Contoso. Anytime. Okay, so until the save is highlighted, we can click on save yet. So I thought all I had to do is click enter. It's in here. We need to see green check mark next to it. For some reason, mine's not doing that. It's not letting us click save yet, but that's the only thing I don't like about this guided thing. But All right, I'm going to try it again. Contoso, copy and paste. That's what we did. All right, so now you want to make sure that under the management group ID and management group display name, both of them are green check mark. And then we are going to click save. A little bit tricky there, but we can only click what they tell us to click. So that's a limitation we have there. So what we did is we just created a management group called Contoso. Now, once that is created, we should be back in the management group window. And notice that you should have two management group. We have a Contoso Azure subscription, and we have the new Contoso we just created. And look at the type column. Ours for the Contoso, the type should be management group. So far, so good, everybody? That is the first scenario we just did. We create a management group. Okay, and we are going to go look at what are we doing. The second scenario, we are going to add a role assignment to the management group. Right now, we create a Contoso management group, and it's just a shell, got nothing in there. We're going to go into Contoso details, and we are going to click access control. From access control, we are going to look at the role assignment. Within the role assignment, we're going to click add, and we're going to add a role called reader. Then we're going to into Azure Access, assign access to drop down, and we're going to assign Azure AD user groups or service principal, and we are going to select Contoso DevOps group, and we're going to click save. So the second thing we're going to do is add role assignment. That's scenario 2. I just want to show you a large print, but the other one is too small, at least for me. Hopefully you guys were able to follow, have a better eye than I do. All right, so we are going into create a step scenario 2. So now we are still in the management group. So step 1, under the scenario 2, add a role assignment to the management group. The role-based access control in that section. Step 1, we are going to select the Contoso management group. Okay, and trust me, they won't let you select anything if it's wrong. Next to that, the Contoso, you should see details in blue link. We are going to select that details for Contoso. That is step 2. Now we are in a Contoso overview blade. Now we are going to select the access control IM on the left panel, right underneath the overview. Okay, from the top menu, okay, we are going to click role assignment. So notice that next to check access, there's a role assignment. We're going to click on the role assignment tab. We are in the role assignment tab here. We are going to click add in the top left corner, plus add, click the add. And when we click add, it's going to show up at add role assignment is what we're going to select. Add role assignment. That add role assignment window will pop up on the furthest right. From the role drop down, we are going to select reader. Okay, we're going to select reader. Assign access to we're going to leave the default there, which is assign access to already have Azure AD user groups or service principal is already there. Okay. For select, we are going to select, we're going to look for Contoso DevOps group. Once you select the Contoso DevOps groups, you should see it shows up in the bottom selected resources. Once you have it, we have Contoso DevOps group. The bottom, we are going to click save. So far, so good, everybody? Okay. So here we have created a role assignment called reader to this group called Contoso DevOps groups. We assign it to that. That is our scenario 2. We add a role assignment to a management group. Management group was Contoso DevOps groups. So far, so good. Guys. And the next section 3, scenario 3, we are going to add a subscription. We're going to add a subscription to that management group. Management group right now, it has a reader role provision, but doesn't have anything in there. So we have 2 parts in this section. We're going to add a subscription to the Azure management group, and we're going to add a subscription to, we'll do the part B there. We have adding Azure subscription to, adding the subscription to Azure management group. So we'll go back into all services, management groups. We're going to click on Contoso details, and we're going to add a subscription. Right now, Contoso doesn't have any, it's not associated to any subscription. So we have to go associate a subscription to that Contoso management group. That's once we've done that, in the part B of this scenario 3, we're going to check the inherited role assignment in the subscription. We're going to add the subscription to Contoso Azure subscription. We're going to look at the access control IAM from and role assignment and check the newly created role assignment present at subscription level. So that's what we're going to go do. We're going to do 2 things in scenario 3. So we are back into the lab. All right. And we are going to select next at the bottom. We need to be in page 3 of 10. And the bottom should say 3 of 10. In the top, it should say scenario 3, add subscription to the management group. That's where we're at. Now we are going to select all services again. Step 1, select the management group again. In the management group, we are going to select Contoso management group again. In the Contoso management, we are going to select the Contoso details, select the detail links again. Now, when you do the Contoso detail links, we are at step 5, add subscription. Notice that add subscription is on the main menu command bar. We're going to select add subscription. Notice that we have no subscription for Contoso. We're going to go select add subscription. Okay, and notice that there, when we click add subscription, it's going to the button on the command bar. It's going to pop up window say add subscription, shows up. In the drop down, we are going to look for a Contoso Azure subscription. We only have 1 here. But if you have multiple subscriptions, this is where you're going to see a list of all those subscriptions. So once we select that one and only subscription we have, we are going to click Save. Okay. Now, in the after add subscription process, click on Contoso Azure subscription, the one we just created. When we go into Contoso Azure subscription, step 1, now we're going into access control IAM, step 2. On the role assignment in the tab, we're going to select the role assignment again. Click, if you don't see our new role assignment should show up. If you don't see it, click refresh. Now I can see it, a newly created Contoso DevOps group at a reader permission that shows up. That tells you that that is our newer role assignment. Everybody able to see that? I hope so. If you don't, please let me know. If I don't hear anything, no news, good news, right? I'm hoping that. So scenario 4 also had 2 parts. Scenario 4, we're going to add a nested management group, which means we're going to add another layer. We're going to add a sub-management group under the management group, okay? So before we can create a sub-management group, we're going to create a new Azure management group in part A, which we've done it. We're going to do that again, and this time we're going to call that management group a application team. Then we're going to check what the inherited permission that particular role has. Part B, we'll check that role in the management group and make sure that Simon is present. Otherwise, we're going to make sure that is working. So that is in scenario 4. So scenario 4, we are going to add the subscription to Azure Management Group. We're going to create a new, and we wanted to make sure that when we create that management group, which is under the main Contoso from the root. So because of that is a sub management group, it's going to inherit whatever the parent has. So that's what we want to show you. All right, so we're back into the lab environment, and in the steps here, we are going to scroll all the way to the bottom, click next. We need to be in scenario 4. It's going to add a nested management group. Okay. Part A, we are go back and click on all services. Click on management group again. We're good at doing that. Under that, we are going to click on step 3. We're going to click on Contoso management group. And from the top menu, we're going to click add management group. See that plus add management group? It's going to ask create new. This is what we did earlier. Same thing we did for Contoso. Now, in the management group ID, we are going to use application team. Step 6, so we're going to copy that, and we're going to put that application team, click enter, make sure there's a green check mark, okay. And the display name is the same. Either that me or something with that. Every time I do this second window, always causes me a problem. All right, I think I have to copy and paste again. If I don't do exactly what they tell you to do, they give you a hard time. There we go. And click save. Okay. If you don't see show up yet, we need to click refresh a couple times. Okay, my application team shows up here. Everybody see your application team? Okay, now we see our application team. We're going to create a management group process. Succeeded on the application team. We are going to click on the application team. And in the application team, step 2, we're going to click the details button. Now we are in the application management team. Now we are going to select the access control IM on the left panel. And from the drop down, the top menu, we are going to select the role assignment. Okay. And check that that custom role assignment that we created is present. Check the custom role assignment is present. We see that that's the one we created custom Contoso DevOps group. That's the one we created. That's a role assignment we created. So notice that we didn't have to create it in the application team, but application team was the nested management group within the Contoso, so it inherits everything that Contoso have. That's what they wanted to show you. Okay, now we are doing scenario 5. So like we've been doing, let's look at what scenario 5 we're going to do. Scenario 5, we're saying that is move subscriptions and groups. We're going to move subscription and groups from one management group to the other. Okay, moving subscription to a new management group. We're going to do that. We're also going to move a management group inside another management group. Okay, so like application team, remember application team is inside the parent management group, which is Contoso. So we're going to do that. So we're going to do 2 different things in scenario 5. Again, in scenario 5, we're going to move subscription and groups, and we're also going to move a management group inside another management group. All right, that's what we're going to do. So let's go back to the lab environment. We are in the instruction guide. We're going to scroll all the way to the bottom. We're going to click next. We are on page 5 of 10. On the top, it's, oh, why is it shutting mine down? I get disconnected. Did you guys get disconnected too? We have 41 minutes remaining. What do you mean? You're just, Let me go back and see if I can start mine. And if you guys got disconnected, or I'm the only one getting disconnected. Okay, well, I'm the only one getting disconnected. Wouldn't be bad. As long as you guys don't get disconnected. I'm going to restart again. Didn't like me. Am I the only one having problem? Did you guys have problem too, or no? If I'm the only one having problem, we can continue the steps.
We are also having problem. Ours is also disconnected.
All of us get disconnected. Okay. All right. I think what I'm going to do, we try it in a different browser. Let's just go. We were doing it Edge. I thought Edge is only one word. At least it kick us all out at the same time, huh? I'm going to try Chrome, and if that works, I'll let you guys know. Oh, gosh, it makes you restart for the whole thing. There's not much to do, but that's not crap. I don't want that to do that. I'm going to click restart again. Let's see if we have. Yeah, click here to report an issue. Yeah, definitely we have an issue here. I'm going to close this window. I can close it. Okay, and we are going to restart it. No, it won't. I'm trying to see. Okay, this is just this page, right? No. No, I was thinking that this is. We have a desktop underneath, right? So we have that desktop underneath. So I wanted to see if we can rerun this thing here. Okay, something in there's gonna copy. I don't know if this is working or not. We were doing so good. Doesn't love us, does it? I don't know. The only thing we can do, can say leave. I'm gonna try to leave and go back. Okay, say leave. Okay, in progress. Yeah, but we don't let me finish it. Okay, so I'm just gonna test this first, so don't do that yet. I just did leave, and I'm gonna go back in. The only thing is like 36 minutes. They're wasting our time here. But there's time in there. We still at only 5. We got to do 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. We got time though. We could do a little faster. Let's see if they let me do that. Are you kidding me? Okay, so no, we got the same problem. Restart. No. Okay, that's not doing anything here. Okay, okay, I'm going to try that in the different browser, which is here. I want to see if I click start, what happened? No. I just wanted to report this real quick before when we go and do a restart. What message are we getting? I wanted to capture that. We're getting connection error. Please try again later. Yeah, I don't think so. Oh, well, we were doing so good. It will not let us do that message. I want to show that message. Okay, for some reason we can't do that. An error and connection. Trying to get the error message, it won't tell me. Yep, okay. Connection error. And a connection error. Okay, we tried a different browser, it didn't work, so it's pretty much the same. All right. All right, hopefully that is something that you guys can try to go back in again later to do that, or we'll try to wait about 30 minutes and go back in as well. All right, but I don't know why. But this morning I did it, it went through the whole thing. So I don't know, maybe too many people connecting. So let's go ahead and close it down for now because it's not working anyway. Make sure that you be logged out of there. I'm going to leave there for a sec. Okay. I like it's an expired. How can it be expired? We didn't even get to do the whole thing. Okay. Not going to argue with them right now. All right. Let's take a 10-minute break. And I want to do another lap. So we'll see if the other lap has problem or not. But I just did it this morning at 3. It didn't have a problem. But the steps are pretty straightforward, guys, right? So hopefully you guys can go through that if we don't have, if the system's not cooperating with us. But the steps are pretty straightforward, right? I hope you guys can follow it, do that. I'm sorry if we can't do that right now. All right. So let's see, it's about 8:04. Let's be back about 20. The ones that the governance one, if you guys can go back and try later, I will go back and try later as well after the evening. If I could go back and try it, and I will try to do screenshots if I can do that. But we'll see. I reported the error as you guys saw. So we're going to try a different one. And I put the name in the Skype chat for you. So we're back in the self-paced lab. In the self-paced, we're looking for SQL Server 2017, Exploring Organizational Security and Auditing. So I think this would be beneficial for security stuff as well. And remember, I also gave you a documentation for that one. So that is the PDF file as I uploaded this morning. Mm-hmm. 6 and 12, 13. So this is the one, say SQL Server 2017, organizational and security and auditing. So that's the PDF file. That's an instruction guide for this. But there's an instruction guide inside the lab as well. So hope everybody got there. We are going to click on launch. These are 120 minutes. We can finish in an hour. Mountains of hills. Let's see, mountains of hills. All right. We agree. Okay, we'll try this again. Okay, this one, I am going to switch to a different account. I can use that one for this one. And sometimes you might want to have more than one Microsoft Live account. So why doesn't work? Let's try the other one. So I hope everybody's trying to get into the SQL Server 2017, Exploring Organizational Security and Auditing. That's where we're all going. We got an hour to finish it. So when that is building, we can look at one thing that this is going to be a different one compared to, it's not guided like the other one, so hopefully we have a better experience with this. The setting up your environment. So we are going to use the, make sure that we go to, the username is administrator, we're going to use that password provided to us in setting up your environment. And we are going to use a lab machine. You'll be using two different databases for this, White World Imports and AdventureWorks 2017. And the lab script files are in the C drive under SQL Server 2017, HOL Organizational Security and Auditing Script. So just want to make sure you guys are aware of this setting up your environment page, which we'll see once we're inside. Okay, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Okay, so if you guys are new in this environment, this is a little different environment. So what we were talking, I was talking to you guys about the setting your environment here. But on the left panel, so instead of clicking Control-Alt-Delete, on the top, on the main menu bar, right between this panel and the instruction guide, on the very top, you should see a command. So it's look like a little thunderbolt in white, and if you highlight it next to that display like a computer icon on in the middle, it's in the middle here, we're talking middle top, you should see that little thunderbolt kind of thing. That is a command. When you click on that, you should see Control-Alt-Delete, and you can click Control-Alt-Delete from there. So when you click Control-Alt-Delete, it's going to give us the administration login, and you can again click on that and type the password. So just click on that and select type text, and under the type text you go to select type password and automatically type it in for you. You don't have to type it in. Okay, and we go to click the arrow. You need to make sure that however you adjust it, that you can see the bottom of that desktop. To the bottom, that's where your SQL Server Management Studio, Visual Studio, and all that there. You need to make sure you can see the bottom on the left browser page where we have your desktop here. All right, so we are familiar with we just look at the setting up your environment. So we are going to scroll to the first session. So now this one is like the ones we've done before. So we have control of what we click. We don't have to follow like the other one. It's not a guided. So the first thing we're going to do is open the SQL Server Management Studio, which you should see under your taskbar at the bottom here. So go ahead and click SQL Server Management Studio. Click only once. I think I clicked it twice, but okay, so it's always going to open up in a Connect to Server window. So in here, in the server name, we are going to use the server name that they provided step 1, which is WS 2016 SQL 2017. It's already in there. make sure that database engine authentication is Windows authentication. So we're going to keep everything default, and all we do is click connect. Okay, once we got connected, we're going to go up to the main top menu bar, and under File, we're going to click Open, click File. That's step 2. We are going to open which file? Let's see. We are going to open C, SQL Server. So we need to make sure we're not in the right directory here. So under C, we need to go look at SQL Server 2017. Under SQL Server 2017, we are going to go into where? Organizational security and auditing. So we're going into that folder, organizational security, and we are script. We're going to open the script, and under the script, we are going to select alter server audit.sql. Everybody able to find it? And we're going to click open. Let me know if you have a problem finding it, please. If I'm not hearing from you, I'm assuming that you guys are good. No news, good news, right? Let me know if you need me. So we just opened that file. You see that script. We are going to execute it. But let's look at what this script is doing. So it said create server audit monitor. So we're going to create a server audit. We're going to create a server called monitor, and it's going to file path of SQL audit. So we're going to audit files, and we also turn on the state. By default, when you create a server, the state is off. So we're going to turn on the state to be on. This is server audit. Monitor is just the name of your server. So let's go ahead and execute it. So after we execute it, we are going to go under the security and the Object Explorer. Open up the security folder. Under the security folder, you're going to see audit folder. Expand the audit folder. You should see the newly created audit you created called monitor. Able to find that, right, everybody? Once you're able to locate that, we are going to move forward. We are going to right-click that monitor under the Object Explorer, and we are going to select Properties. Okay, so in the Properties, so here we're just looking at, we're not going to change anything in here, but notice that it's already create a file path for us and tell you where the file is. You can look at what information are in general. So we're not changing anything here. We're just absorbing what's in here. It says observation. And audit log failure. Audit file and file path also defined here. We don't need to do anything. It's already defined for us. The file path is to SQL audits. We're going to click OK. So now we are going to temporarily disable that audit to make sure that the event will be written. We need to do something to make sure something goes into the audit log. So that's what we're going to do. So now we are going to right-click the monitor, and you're going to click Disable Audit. So everybody, we're going to right-click on the monitor, and we're going to disable the audit. So now it said Disable Audit Successful. Say 1 total, 0 error, 1 success. That window shows up. That is step 2. We are going to click Close. And we are going to scroll down to the next step. Okay, now we're going to go back and enable it. We just make sure that you see a red cross next to your monitor, which means it is disabled. Then we're going to right-click again, and we're going to enable that audit. So now the audit is enabled. So that we disable and enable that process we did, that goes into our audit log, and we want to go see that. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to click Close here. And we're going to right click on the monitor. We're going to select View Audit Logs. Notice that that transaction just went in there. This must be at a different time so that the server is in here. But notice that audit section, it tells you, and if you also can look at down here, on the bottom part of it, it tells you what time it went down. So this is definitely different time zone here, not my time zone, but it's a class type. It tells you what happened, what the audit was. It's in the audit log. So, all right, so we just created an audit log, and we just want to show you, of course, in the real world, you're not going to turn it off and on. You just do that. If something happened, this is where you're going to come and look, all right? Okay, now the next thing we're going to do, let's see what we're going to do here. Again, we have this document as a PDF that I give it to you guys. You have a PDF file here. Okay, in this section, we are going to connect any database permission to a user called Robert. I think we're doing to Robert, yes. So, okay, so we are going back into Object Explorer. We are in the security. This time, we are going to go into the folder called Login. Under the Login folder, you should see a user Robert. Right click on Robert and select Properties. So we are in the Windows where Robert is. All right. So in that Robert property, we are going to, in the left panel where select a page, we're going to select Securables. In the Securable section, and now we are going to go look for connect any databases down here in your roles. So connect any database. So connect any database. Once you see that, we're going to click on the grant. We're going to click on the grant box, checkbox. So Robert can connect to any database is what we're going to give that permission. You're with me on that? Now we're going to click OK. Now Robert has a permission to connect to any database. So far, so good. Now we're going to test that. So we're going into an Object Explorer. Under Right Object Explorer, we're going into Connect Database Engine. This time we are going to connect using SQL Server Authentication. So under the Authentication, we're going to click the drop down. We're going to see SQL Server Authentication. Login, we're going to type in Robert is the login. Okay, and the password is the password that they provide to us here, which is PASS@WORD1. And click Connect. It asks for a new password. So whatever new password you change it to, you better remember that one. And click OK. So now notice that you are in the database where Robert login, and next to the database name say Robert. So we are in the right spot. That's where we want it to be. Now let's see what we want. They want us to do. Okay. So we are going into expand the database folder. Under the database folder, we are going to expand White World Imports. White World Importers, excuse me, and we're going to expand that. Under there, we are going to expand the tables. Okay, and we are expand the tables. Okay, it's not a system administrator. He's able to see all of them because you give them that connect to any database, okay? So Robert can see all the stuff in there because we just granted him connect any database permission. So any database permission is working. So Robert is here. We are going to right click on that database that the server we're connected to, and we're going to disconnect him from the server. So now we notice that the connected database that works, he was able to see every data in the database, right? I mean, any tables in the database. We go to click disconnect. Now we're going to grant Robert different permission. So we go back to the Object Explorer, back into Security, back into Login, back into Robert again. And Robert, we are going to select Properties again. Now we're going to give it different permission. We're going to select, once you are in the property of Robert, we're going to select a page. We're going to select Securable. Under the Securable, we need to select all user securable permission. You're going to select all user securable permission and select all user secure. Make sure you click grant that select all user securables. So we're just going to change different permissions, show you what different permission does for you. So when you click OK, now we're going to go back and connect as a Robert. And remember the password you put in earlier. I hope I remember it correctly. Okay, so we are back in as Robert. And the same thing, we are going to expand the security. And expand the login. We just did the securable. We already select all user securables. Okay, back into security, expand the login. Okay, we're just going to look at all user securable. Okay, we don't need to go back in. We have to grant another permission to him. Okay, so we just went into all user securable, so that's what we just did. I guess we don't have to log in. I went and logged in first, right? That login. Okay, back into so we'll go back into, from the top, we'll go back into the original server, go back into Robert, click on Properties. So this is after we had set the all securable. Now we're going to go set another permission. I'll be adding a different permission. So we're logged back in. Okay, this one, once we connect in, let me back up here. I think this is scrolling too slow for me, so I'm not looking at it correctly. In the worldwide imports, go back into the table, and now we say that Robert can see the tables that earlier. So going back into the database, go back into worldwide importers, go into tables. So all we're just showing now, you can see all these tables that you don't see earlier. Earlier we only see these 4 tables only, 4 folder. Now you can see all of those because we had assigned secure all securables. All right, so that's what we just showed. So now you can see all these. I don't know if you remember earlier, we only see these 4 folder. We don't see this. You can take out that permission and go back and look at it if you like. You can see that too. You can see we only have 4. We only have these 4 folder. We don't have these. Now we have all of them. Okay, so that is complete. This window is kind of funky because its font is too small for me. All right, we are going to scroll down. Now the next permission we are going to select. So we are set up. Okay, we're going to revoke the select all user securable permission. Hold on, I just want to make sure what page number that's at here. These fonts are so small for me to look. Okay, we have page 13. Okay, before we get to that, and page 13. Okay, we're going to revoke the select all user securable permission from Robert. All right, so what we're going to do We're going to disconnect him from this again. So he's going to get disconnected, connect all day long. And now we're back in the main one under the login, under the security login, under Robert. We go back into properties, go back into securables. Now we're going to go take off that, select all user securable. We're going to take that off. You know why we'll take it off, but they say to take it off, so we'll take it off. And then the next one we're going to do is we're going to add view any definitions. So from here, Robert again, we're going to click properties and under securable, and we are going to scroll down to view any definition. It's pretty much close to the bottom. So view any definition, we're going to grant view any definition, securables. As you know the routine now, we're going to click OK, go back and click on connect, and we're going to log back to the database engine as Robert, and connect again, and let's see, we are in page 14 now, so that's all we're doing is we just add that view definition, view any definition per, that's what we just add that. Now, after we add the view any definition, that's what we just did, we just back and log back in. Now, because it said view any definition, now you can query. So we are go back into under the Robert, database SQL Server Robert, we go and expand the databases, and under the white world importers, we're going to expand the tables, and under the tables we're going to look for purchasing.purchase orders, which is about the middle, the purchasing.purchase orders. Purchasing.purchase orders, we're going to right click and we are going to select top 1000 row. Say purchase order, you're going to get an error. It's saying that we don't have permission. No, we have view any definition. We should have that permission. Why do we don't have that? Okay, maybe I need to disconnect. I am going to disconnect this first. I want to go back into Robert, go back into property, make sure under securable, he does have view definition, view any definition. Oh, no, I click on the wrong one. View any definition, not a grantor as a view any definition. Make sure that is there. Go back into connect. I mean, I did a mistake. I don't think you guys are going to be able to see it, right? You didn't have any problem seeing it? So under the Robert, under the database, under the worldwide importers, under the tables, we're going to purchasing purchase order and select 1000 rolled. I don't know why I'm not having the purchase order. Okay, you're supposed to have permission on that one. Orders and select top 1000 rolled. Anybody were able to do that? On the view definition? I'm sure I missed a step somewhere. Okay, you should be able to see that if you have view permission, view definition permission. Oh, okay. Now we're supposed to get an error because, yeah, that's true, because he does not have permission. So when you give he has permission to view. All definition means view. You cannot select or update or delete. All you can do is look at the table only. You cannot select from the table. In order to connect to the table, we have to add a new role. We have to add a role to give him permission. So we're correct. So everybody should be getting an error. So because he does not have permission, view definition means view. You can only see it. You cannot select from it. We're good there, right? Now we are moving to the next one, the next section. I don't know about for you guys, but this is, I'm glad that I print out the document because this is hard to see and hard to follow because the screen is a small font. I'm blind as a bat. I have 800 on both sides, my eyes. I don't, even with 800, I'm not seeing it, so that's pretty sad, right? All right, so we are going to create a new role called preferred check, okay? So we're going to create that new role, preferred check, and if you're like me and looking at the document, it is page 17, okay? The step 4 in page 17, preferred check. But anyway, so we are going to create a role. So now make sure that you are in the top where the main database is, that you log in as an admin, and we are not in Robert. We need to make sure we're not in Robert. So we are in the top role up here where we log in as the admin database. Okay, we're going to expand the security as we did before. Now, instead of the login folder this time, we are going to expand the server roles. In the server role, we are going to right-click server role and select new server role. And everybody got that right. I said we are going to in the Object Explorer, we're going to the very top one. The first time we log into the database as admin. It will only work if we're admin. So we're not logging as Robert here. So under that database, the very top, our first database we opened, the same database, but we're logging as admin. And we need to open up the security. In the security folder, we're going to open up the server role folder. In the server role folder, we're going to right-click and select new server role. We are going to create a new server role, and we are going to name that server role. So we're going to create a new server role. We're going to name that preferred check. Preference check. I think I don't know what the abbreviation for is, but preference check. So we had named the server role, and under the securable, we are going to open up the servers folder, and we're going to select that only server we have, one and only server, which is WS 2016 SQL 2017. Okay, so that completes the step 5. And we are going to continue. What permission are we going to give that server role? So in the server role, we are going to look for a couple permissions there. We're going to look for alter trace. So we got to find alter trace. You can expand these things if you need to make sure you know if you don't know what they are, so I kind of expand the permissionless state. You're going to select alter trace and click grant on alter trace. We're going to permit, there's a couple of permissions we're going to add, alter trace, and then we're going to click on, we're going to grant connect any database. So we're going to click on connect any database. Connect any database, alter trace, connect any database. Also, we are going to grant create DDL. Must have bypassed it. Create DDL. Create DDL event notification. We're going to grant that as well. Create DDL event notification. Then we are going to grant view any definition. View any definition. That's toward the bottom. After we have view any definition, let's see what else we are granting here. The last one is view server state. That's the last one in the list also, view server state. Okay, so to double check, we are granting, make sure that we are granting the alter trace, connect any database, create DDL, view any definition, and view server state. So we have 5 permission we added. We're granting 5 different permissions, which some permissions are already in there, so don't take anything off, but alter trace. We have alter trace, connect any database, we have that. Make sure we have create DDL event notification. And then we also have view any definition, view server state. Okay, we have all of those. Then we are going to click OK. We need to be back in that. So I'm going to open up back in the properties here. Okay, so we need to go back into the preference check. If you got closed like mine, you can, in the role, you can highlight the role here under the server role and open the properties. So member of this role, we don't have any members of this role. We're going to add members of the role. So we're going to click add. And this time we're going to add Peter. So we're going to add Peter and click OK. And OK on the server role property as well. So we got, as a role member, we have Peter, and Peter has a role called preferred check. All right, we're going to click OK here. So let me make sure that we are at the same place here. All right. So what we're going to do now, we're going to confirm the use of the new role. So we are going to into the connect again, connect database engine. This time we are going to connect as Peter. You guys got the idea, right? So we are going into connect as Peter. For the first time, Peter connecting. Of course, the password always going to be PASSWORD1, which shows step 3 as well. And click on connect. New password again. I'm going to confirm the password. And click OK. All right, so we are logging as Peter. Now we are doing the same thing. We will go back into open up, expand, make sure that you are in the Peter database and log in as Peter database at the bottom. We're going to expand the databases. Under the databases, we're going to expand the worldwide importers. And under the worldwide importers, we're going to expand. You can expand the tables, and you can click any tables. Take any table and right-click on any table and select top 1000 row. You still have a message in the query window. So what is happening? It's saying, note that role preferred check is allowed to see all the databases, view any definition, but it is not allowed to access the data itself. So however, the role does allow appropriate operations to monitor the server performance without the user has a permission to requiring sysadmin rights. All right? So we want to say a different permission here. To confirm that user Peter can perform SQL trace, we are going to, even though he cannot run the SQL statement, but he should be able to run the trace is what we're saying, to test it. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down here. we're going into SQL Trace. So we are going into SQL, we're going into tools from the main menu bar on the top in SQL Server Management Studio. Under there, we are going to open SQL Server Profiler. It's another tool. We're going to log in there as Peter. Okay. So far, so good. Everybody, we are logged in as Peter, and you can see the trace properties up there. Okay, and we're going to leave everything there, standard, blah, blah, blah. We are just going to leave the default the way it is. We didn't change anything. And we are going to select run. So we're going to log in as Peter. That's what we just did. Let's look at what they want us to do here. So they want us to click run. Let's click run. Notice that is, so even though you don't have a select permission, what we want to show you that is you can still run the SQL Server Profiler. And if you're not a database person, no need to load this, but if you're a database person, this is what's showing your data is getting audited. So if you're a database person, you should know how SQL Profiler works, and if not, go look into SQL Profiler how to read these. But we're just showing you the permission wise, so we're not going into detail on the SQL Profiler. So we're going to click on the red square button on the top in the command bar to stop the trace. If you don't stop the trace will be going. All right. So we had shown you different permission. We're trying to show you what permission can do what. All right. Now we're going into the audit. Audit is interesting to do. Okay. So we are going into the audit section here and the documentation. If you're looking at. So in this exercise, we are going to use the features in SQL 2017. This is only in SQL 2017. If you have any other version, these three features are not going to work, which is audit resilience, ensures that audit logs are not lost in failover during temporary file or network issues. User-defined audit, we can create an event that allow application to write custom information to the audit log. We also have audit filtering to improve filtering to simplify audit reporting. As you know as well as I do, when you look at a log is just like a reporting. It has all kinds of information. So if we want to only see what we should see, this is how we need to narrow it down. So this is what we're going to do. All right, so this is the three feature. Again, this is only in SQL Server 2017. Okay. We are going to go in and do that. So we are going back into, we can close this SQL Server Profiler window. We were in SQL Server Profiler, so close that window. We're back in the SQL Server Management Studio. So we are going to create an audit called Large Pay Increase. So we are going in back to SQL Server Management Studio, and we are going to select File, Open, and we're going to go get the lab files. Click Open File, and this time we are going to select Large Pay Increase SQL. That wouldn't be a bad idea, right? If we could just run a script and increase our salary, hey, we'd be rich. I don't know about you guys, but I could use pay increase, especially large pay increase. That sounds good to me. All right, we're going to click it open here. And, of course, we're going to open that file, and we're going to execute to run that script. That script is running. Okay, why am I getting error? Because I'd run it as a, sorry, I did a mistake. Again, we don't need to be Peter anymore. I'm sorry, I wasn't Peter. I have to go back and do this. We need to make sure you're not running as Peter. We need to run as administrator, okay? So I am going to disconnect Peter and Paul and everybody else, Peter and Robert. I'm going to disconnect both of them and disconnect them. Okay. Go back and open my file. large pay increase SQL. Now I am admin. Make sure that you run it as administrator or you'll get an error like me. I'm sure you guys are smarter than me. You already run it without that problem. So now we are going into security, and under the security, we are going into database audit specification. Okay, for 2017 security. Okay, so we're going to go into security. Under security, we don't need that. We are, oh, I'm sorry, we need to be in the database. Under the database, under the database, security, we are looking for database authentication, Where are we missing here? Okay, we need to be in work, Adventure Work 2017. Definitely, I need another cup of coffee. under the database, under the Adventure Work 2017, under the security, I am losing it here. Now we're going to, under the security, we're going into database audit specification. Everybody's, now you see your large pay increase. So again, we should be in your main, you need to log in as administrator. Under the main database, expand your database, and you're going to expand Adventure Work 2017. After you expand your Adventure Work 2017, you're going to expand security folder. Under the security folder, you're going to expand database audit specification, and you should see large pay increase. Everybody's got to see that? Sorry, I had to run it twice because I was logging as Peter. So I have to go back in and did that. So hopefully I didn't lose you guys. So we have seen the large pay increase. All right, now what are we doing with large pay increase? And step 6, and the large pay increase, we are going to right click and go to properties. Notice that you already have user defined audit group. So it is set up trace event raised by using the SP audit right store procedure. We're not doing anything here. We just want to show you what audit action type is going to take. Okay, so we're going to click OK here. The next thing we're going to use is a trigger to write audit record using the SP audit write procedure is what we're going to do. So back in Sequence for Metro Studio, go back into File, Open, and Open File. This time we are going to execute E2C1-1 SQL. Open that one, and we're going to execute that one. Okay. And click execute. Okay, so after we execute, let's see what else we're going to do. Okay, after we execute, now we are going to, we're going to execute the second script. So continue, go back to File, Open, go get the second one, ex2c-1 pound2.sql, get that file, and execute that file. You know what that file is doing too, right? Look at it. So it's Adventure Work 2017. Say we're going to select everything, every column from human resources.employee history where business entity ID is 4. And we're updating the human resource employee because we are giving a raise to everybody. Pretty cool. So once we run that second one, number 2, now we're going to check that pay has increased or not and see what changes is done. We want to check the audit log going to show that something has changed. So now we are back into the security. Under the security, go back into audit. Okay, not in that security. We are in the security here and the database security. Under the security, we'll go back and audit. Remember, we had monitor only. Now, if you don't see anything yet, we can refresh a couple of times. Under the audit, under the monitor, we should say testing user default event. Okay. Mine, okay, why must not increase? Rerun it. We already run it. Okay. All right, now it shows up. It takes a couple of minutes. What we're looking for is under the audit, we should see testing user defined events. Everybody got that? Right click on that, and we are going to select view audit logs. If it's not started, if you don't see testing user defined event under the audit, click or refresh a couple times, and it takes a couple minutes to show up. Now we are in the audit log. As you can see, you should see that log, and it tells you what time was created. And also you can see audit collection. It tells you the log audit collection is testing user defined event, the one we just run it. It gives you all kinds of information. That's something that if you're interested, go in and look into in detail. More about that if you're a database person or if you need to, if you're the person managing the audit log and all that. Okay, now we're going to do some audit filtering. So we are going to do audit filtering. In the audit filtering session, so let's increase, we are going to, we did this already, make sure we are in that section. Okay, so we should be in the session audit filtering. So now we are going into the audit filtering section in the SQL Server Management Studio. So we're going to close this, go back into File, New, File, Open, File. And this time we are going to run Payroll Security Audit SQL. And I'm going to click Open. And of course we're going to execute. Okay, after we executed, we wanted to make sure that if you look at what we're creating there, we are creating a server audit called Payroll Security Audit. We can tell them where the file path is, alter that server audit Payroll Security Audit with the state, the server state to be on. We're also creating audit specification, audit pay tables, and all that. We're creating the database audit specification in here. So you can look at the statement to see what we're doing. Now after we had executed, now we are going into confirm that what we execute has created those files that created the databases we're looking. So under the AdventureWorks 2017, so go back into the database. Expand the database and expand the AdventureWorks 2017. Under AdventureWorks 2017, we're going to expand the security. Under the security, we are going to expand the database audit specification. And now you should see audit pay tables. So that's what we just created. If you don't see audit pay tables yet, go ahead and click refresh a couple times. All right, so that's what I want to show you. We click OK there. We are going into that audit pay tables. We want to go into the property just to see what's in there. So notice that audit pay table, audit log. So everybody insert or select anything into the table, it will go into that audit log. Okay, we're good with that. We're going to click OK there. Now we're going to test it that, okay, we set it a log. Is the log doing what we're supposed to do? Okay, what it's supposed to do. So we need to make sure that every time we set up something, we will confirm that is working the way we're supposed to. So now we are going into audit pay table. We already looked at the payroll. Now we're going to go back in SQL Server Management Studio, open up the file, click open file. This time we are going to go get the 3, the E2C-1 pound 3. That's the last one we haven't run, and we are going to execute that. Notice that what is it doing? It is selecting things from that employee pay history Adventure Work 2016. So we go and execute it. As you can see, you're able to execute that. Now, once we have run that, now we are going back to check that the select statement we just run, that needs to go into the audit, right? It's going to show that, yes, that this particular transaction is run. So now we are going back into the audit file to double check it. So now we're going back into security. Under security, under the audit, we are going to go to payroll security audit. So we need to make sure it create payroll security audit. Do we have payroll security audit? Maybe it's still not coming up, but it said we're supposed to see the payroll security audit. Anybody of you guys got that? Okay, I had to refresh it at the server level. Now I have payroll security audit. If you don't have that, go and double click on that. Go and refresh it at the server level, the top. Now we see that. And when you click on that and select view audit logs, the one we just did, you just see that. Rerun that statement. Audit section change. So it tells you every time that we do something, if you create an audit log, it's going to record something has changed to that table or changed to that database. That's what we're showing you here. All right. Okay, so here's a couple other things other topics that they talked in here. So we're going to talk about that. We're talking about the deadlog. So deadlog is very common that you'll see in database environment. So deadlog is not good to do, but deadlog occurs when there is a cycle dependency between two or more threats for some set of resources. For example, if you have a transaction A acquires a shared log on row 1 and transaction B acquires a shared log on row 2, and now transaction A go to require exclusive log on row 2, but it is blocked until the transaction B can finish, right? If that happened, if two or more people are updating the table or trying to do something to the table, update or delete or insert anything. So transaction B now requires an exclusive log on row 1, but it is blocked till transaction is finished. So we call that deadlogging. That we can move to the next session until something has to go back, something has to complete. So because none of them can complete, we're going to have a problem. And audit event, so we have rollback transactions and commit transactions. So those are kind of things happen in the audit getting logged. All right. The next thing that we are going to do is contain database authentication. And I don't know if you guys use contained database authentication a lot or not, but that is another one good to know. Contained database authentication is include all database settings, metadata, all that, without having any configuration dependency on the instance of the database engine. So it just pretty much take the data only, not the engine, just the data itself. User can connect to that database without authenticating a login at the database engine level. Isolating the database from the database engine makes it possible to move that database easily to another instance of a single server. So you you go to separate your data from the database engine, which is pretty much you're separating from your system files and user-defined files. Your database is your user-defined tables. You go to separate them so you can move them if it's necessary. Don't ask me why you want to move it, but that's what contained database is. Okay. We got 10 minutes, so let's try to get this contained database, see if we can get it to work. So we are going back into database engine. We are already there. We are going to Object Explorer, right-click on the server. We are going to select properties at the server level. Okay, so in that server level, and notice that we are in the selected page. You're going to select the advanced. And the very top one in the advanced, notice that it said enable contained database. We are going to click on that field. As soon as you click on it, the drop arrow shows up. We're going to change it to true. We want to enable contained database. And you are going to click OK. Click OK. Now, back in the Object Explorer, we're going to right-click on the databases here, and we're going to select New Database, and we're going to call our new database Contained Database. Okay, and click OK. Refresh the database under your database until you can see contained database. So I can see contained database already there. So refresh a couple times if you don't see the contained database. But if you see the contained database, you're going to right-click on properties. And in the options page, you're going to change, and here's an option page. So we are going to select under the page. You're going to select the option page. And the option page, we're going to change containment type. Under the containment type, you're going to click the drop down. We're going to select partial. And we are going to click OK. And we're going to add a user, John, to have access to this contained database. All right, so we're going to expand the contained database node. And under the security for contained database, we are going to select users. Under users, we are going to create a new user. So right-click under users, we're going to click new user. And in the new username is going to be John. John doesn't have a last name. And we are going to use password, as we always use the password that they provide us, which is PASS at world WORD1. For people looking at the document with me, this is the document is here. So this is where we are at. Okay, so we are going to do PASS at WORD1. PASS at WORD1. one. Okay. And we are click membership. And that selected page, we're going to select membership. And we are going to select DB data reader role. That is the third one from the top, DB data reader role. And we're going to click OK. Now we're back to the database engine. We are going to do a connect. New database engine. We are going to connect. Okay, so this time we're going to connect to a specific database. So we have SQL Server Authentication. Make sure authentication we change to SQL Server Authentication. We are going to log in as John and whatever passwords. No, that's password is PASS at WORD1. And we're not going to connect it. We're going to click the options here. He does not have permission to click to access the entire database. He only has access to a contained database. So when you click option, you're going to type in contained database. And then we're going to try to connect. So now notice that he is connect, but if you see him under here, when you expand the database, under the database, notice he has only contained database. So that's how you give access to a specific database to an individual user instead of giving access to the entire server. All right, so now you're connected to that contained database. When you expand that contained database, now you should see. So the whole goal here is we're trying to show you is each different permission has different roles and why we need to have different permissions on each one. So in SQL Server, every securable has associated permission that can be granted to a principal permission, and the database engines are managed at the server level assigned to logins and server roles, and at the database level assigned to database users and database roles. So there's two levels. We have server role and server level permission and database permission. Of course, database is lower in the hierarchy, right? So you have server hierarchy. Under the server, you can have many databases. So you can give a user a specific database permission instead of giving the entire server permission. If you give them server permission, they will have access to every database in there. So that's all the different things that we do. And I know you guys may not be doing this all the time, but hoping that understanding these different type of security is going to help you understand when you can access the data. And sometimes, okay, how come I can't access this part, but I can see it, but how come I can't run a select? So this will give you a better idea. So that's my goal. And of course, if you guys had time and go back into Azure Governance, try to see if you can do that. I've also tried to follow up with the support to see if they fix it. And if you guys can't get back in and do that, hopefully the next session we're going to see on Monday, that June 3rd, that I'll see if we can, if that problem has resolved. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thanks as usual. Thanks for being so patient. I will see you guys Monday. Have a good weekend. Stay out of trouble. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, May.
You're welcome. Hopefully this is somewhat beneficial to you guys, right? Hopefully you have a better understanding about security and all that. Security and audit. And don't forget to log out of the lab session. I mean, unless you want to stay in and play with it, but and when you time out, it'll tell you that you still have an hour left. So we did pretty good.